Continuing my nightly reading, and I actually not even sure I should be making this video because I need to go to bed early tonight. But continuing my nightly reading with Seneca, and I'm still towards the very beginning. This was just such an interesting letter. I thought I'd go ahead and talk about this one too. This is letter 7, and it's about basically dealing with the popular ideas. Now, when I was a kid, an ironically popular thing to say was what's right isn't always popular and what's popular isn't always right. And that's really fallen out of favor with a more mob mentality um, ethic these days. And they're competing mobs, but they're mob mentality nonetheless. It's kind of funny whenever I was reading this, uh, one of the earlier sentences he says is, "I never come back home with quite the same moral character I went out with. Something or other becomes unsettled where I had achieved internal peace. Some one or other things I had put to flight reappears on the scene." And whenever I've read that, I actually the first thing I thought of is you want to avoid a mass crowd. Every time you go into a crowd, you come back unsettled without the internal peace that you had achieved. I thought is he talking about going to the grocery store? Because I hate going to the grocery store. I can't stand that crowd. I just don't like crowds. I went to Rome once, and that was the one thing I hated about Rome was how crowded it was. Oh gosh, the Vatican. Oh gosh, that was such a nightmare because it was just so crowded. That's not the point of this, though. Sorry. Um, but what he talks about first is and he starts by talking about an example, and then he goes from that example to the abstract, to the more um, to the general. So from the specific to the general, reasoning from there's a word for that. I can't think of what it is now. Um, I think if we're right, that's what Aristotle used to do, and Plato wouldn't do that. I'm not completely sure, but he talks about, and this was something I thought was weird because it was just so seemed so modern in some sense. At lunch one day, he went out and decided to go for a show. Now, of course, shows back then were live, but it could be it could be one of the many things. It could be a play. It could be a reenactment of a battle or something. Um, but he saw. I don't remember if he ever used the word gladiator. Gladiators, I think, more specific. Um, but he went to a show, essentially a matinee during lunch, and it was just kind of a weird thing that they just like. Oh, during lunch, I'm gonna go see a matinee. It's like a weird, almost very modern thing, except you wouldn't have time to see a matinee today. That would take too long. Um, and he is very condemning of this. Um, so he talks about how entertainment is a means by which vices creep into one with more than usual ease. How does that not describe today's world? Entertainment is absolutely a place where vices creep in to our daily lives. It's always been that way. That's not new. Some people think, oh, television when I was a kid, and now they'd say, I guess when I was a kid they were saying video games, and now they're saying social media. It's not new. Uh, Entertainment has always been kind of a means by which our society would degrade. That's just always been that way. Um, but this really is way worse than anything we have today. Uh, so before I even go to that, I'll say, what do you take me to mean? That I go home more selfish, more self seeking, and more self indulgent? So are you saying that the the entertainment makes me a worse person? Is that what you're telling me? Yes. And what is more, a person crueler and less humane through having been in contact with human beings. He doesn't like the large crowds because it degrades his moral character. Being around them degrades his moral character. Social media, technically what I'm doing right now, honestly, but I mean, hopefully, what I'm saying is that being somewhat beneficial. I just thought this was so good, I couldn't help but share this. Um, and he talks about uh, how the show that he went to see, he calls it murder pure and simple. I've only got one hand to turn this page. Now a cat's getting in the way. Uh, this was a very lowest common denominator. Some of the worst things. Like, can you imagine what seeing people be killed all the time? The fact that you want, like, what would that do to you, and what's wrong with a person that they would want to see that? But you know what? The difference between that is and now, I can think of two different parallels. One is the more obvious one. We may not watch people die live. We may not have gladiator games, but we have simulated murders that people just love to watch. There's a Squid Game 2 now. I don't know if it's out yet because I don't follow that, but I was horrified to learn that people liked Squid Game enough that there's a Squid Game 2. I remember watching. This is today. It's old, but it was the Friday the 13th movie, and I thought this is pointless. There wasn't even a plot. It was just watching people die. That's all it was. And yeah, I know people are going to get really angry at me for that whatever reason, but even, and I'm serious when I say this, even professional wrestling has more depth than a lot of the garbage that we see of just watching people die. That's all it is. Um, and I couldn't help but think, like, when you talk about when he talks about how this is a morally degrading thing, I couldn't help but think about Augustine in his. I'm pretty sure it was in his Confessions when he talked about how after his conversion, at least I think it was a long time ago that I read the Confessions, so who knows how much my memory's not quite right on this, but after his conversion from Manichaeism to Christianity, or maybe even in his conversion to Manichaeism, I'm not completely sure. He had come to the conclusion that it was a terrible thing. That these gladiator games, this would be like 300 years, I think, after Seneca wrote this, but they still would have had some of those gladiator games or whatever. Gladiator's only one specific form, I think, but these barbaric games, or not even games in some cases, literally just watching people be mauled to death by bears and lions. Um, the Augustine had come to the conclusion that this was a wrong thing to do, and so one day his friends came and asked him to go, and he said, "No, I don't do that anymore." Basically, and so then they forced him, like physically forced him, practically kidnapped him, to come to and watch the games. And even though he was morally convicted this was a wrong thing to do, after some time he was with the rest of the crowd. He was cheering. He was excited to see it. Being with the crowd degraded his own moral character. Um, so that was one thing that I saw. Friday the 13th. That's one parallel. Squid Game, the Saw series. There's a point. No, there's not. Uh, but there's another parallel that I can think of. It's not exactly the same thing, but I think it really does fit, and that is cancel culture. And don't be fooled. Cancel culture exists on both left wing and right wing. When you just love to see someone's life get ruined because of you think it's got some kind of a sense of justice or something. You think your sense of justice is being satisfied. It's really just a bloodlust that's being satisfied. And I remember heard the excuses there should be consequences for being a terrible person. Is the excuse? There's no trial, no even semblance or pretense of freedom of freedom of speech, free thought. It's just that there should be consequences to being a terrible person. For the record, there's always consequences to being a terrible person. I know that's not, people don't always think that, but it's true. And that kind of thing happens here. Seneca addresses the uh, the objection, but he was a highway robber. He killed a man, so it's all right that we enjoy watching him die because he deserves it. What have you done, you wretched fellow, to deserve to watch it? Kill him, flog him, burn him. It's come now. I'm jumping ahead. Come now, I say. Surely you people realize, if you realize nothing else, that bad examples have a way of recoiling on those who set them. Give thanks to the immortal gods, pagan. Give thanks to the immortal gods that the men in whom you are giving a lesson in cruelty are not in a position to profit from it. So he's saying, be grateful they can't pay you back. You're teaching them pain. They're not going to be able to teach you pain in return because they're dying. So you should be grateful for that, but those bad examples have a way of recoiling on those who set them, is what he's saying. And that, I don't know exactly how to put to words. This is not something that he said, but satisfying bloodlust, even if it's like cancel culture or whatever, um, really does have a way of corrupting the people. In the same way that bitterness has a way of corrupting people. Okay, I'm only halfway through this message, and I don't even know if TikTok will let me upload this video. It's 12 minutes long, so I'll go ahead and stop this video now and make another video later for the second half of this. I just think this is a great letter. Letter 7. I recommend looking up letter 7 from Seneca.